Welcome back to Seek a Strength and welcome back to Seek a Stan. This video is a clip from our recent podcast series. This full podcast with Kelly Starrett is available currently on the channel, so you can go and check out the full hour-and-a-half long version. In this clip, Kelly talks about how to find a good physiotherapist, how to find a good physical therapist or chiro. This is one of the most common questions we get asked by our athletes if they're working in different countries. How do I know if my therapist is up to scratch for me? How do I know if they're appropriate for a strength training or power training athlete? As always, this video is brought to you by the Seek a Strength app. The Seek a Strength app is loaded with all the most up-to-date Seek a Strength training programs. It also has dynamic coaching logic built into it. So as you finish your training sessions, if you have to change any of the loading or any of the sets and reps you completed, your future sessions will reflect that, and it will more closely follow what you'll be able to do and push that line a small bit further, get a small bit more out of your training. Also, you're not left on your own when you're using the Seek a Strength app. We have an inbuilt coaching bot that's been trained on all of the Seek a Strength content that's out there. So every YouTube video, every podcast, all of our coaching seminars that we've done over the last 5 years have been fed to it. So it has a lot of the answers to the questions you're going to have mid-session. Also, video feedback is available through our members group. If you want more details, go and follow the link below. It's available on iOS and on Android.
Kelly, on this subject, eventually at some stage, say as S&C coaches, you've got to send one of your athletes to a relevant therapist, and very often people ask, how do you find a good therapist? And unfortunately, when it comes to, if you don't have 10 plus years experience of training and seeing really terrible experiences and you build up your kind of bullshit meter, this might be unanswerable, but do you have a checklist for someone when they have to go see someone? Do you have any way of a couple of templates or a couple of things you could look for when you're trying to find a therapist, whatever they are?
Such a good,
chiro, physio,
yeah. And the therapist is the right word, because it could be napropath, osteo, chiro, physio. Turns out my friends, I can't tell what school they came from because we all practice the same way. Right? I mean, really is like, we think the same way. We understand pain science the same way. We understand strength and conditioning the same way. It's just the body only does a certain number of things. So we might have a different set of tools, but ultimately you can't tell. One of my best friends and superstar member of our staff is a chiro, and he's just a genius, but he's also a brilliant strength and conditioning coach. The first thing I say, and this is so important, if we could clip this out and just help serve the world, I think this would be great, because it really is a gigantic problem. So I was working with a high-level surfer, a couple-time world champion surfer, and this person is traveling over the world this last year, and what I would do is call the local Olympic lifting club or the local CrossFit gym, and I'd say, who's your physio? Who works out there? Who do you go see? And then I would connect them. So one is that work has been done for me by all of the coaching staff, because number one, if that physio or therapist isn't in the gym with you training there, I'm a little bit suspicious. Number two, if that person tends not to also be a member of the strength and conditioning staff, for me, I'm a little bit suspicious. So it doesn't mean they're not geniuses, and it doesn't mean I won't send them, but I want a person who is alongside, understands sort of the demands, and that means that they typically are physio coaches, and they typically have some kind of relationship, or they've been so vetted because the athletes come back fitter, stronger, right? And here's number two, anything that this person is giving them, the athlete predominantly can do themselves, and they do it in my gym in front of me. So we're going to train, we're going to protect that injury or that site, and then they're going to do all of that stuff with the team. The second a physio or some kind of therapist pulls that person away from their community and starts to isolate them, that person starts to become detrained. That person starts to become weaker. That person starts to become sort of isolated and depressed. Those are gigantic red flags for me. So again, I think it can all happen concurrently. We always try to say to people, I'm like, when I've just worked with someone, do you understand what I think the problem is? Yes or no? Do you know what you're going to do about it? Not me, what you're going to do about it. And do you know what the next step is? And if I can't get a hold of the issue in 3 visits, I fire you and kick you to someone else. And I don't use 3 visits. So if someone's gone to someone more than 3 visits, and if they're managing like a surgery, acute surgery, it's just a problem, and they're not gone in 3 visits, red flag. If someone's not in the gym, red flag. If someone doesn't know what to do on their own, red flag. So if someone starts to say things like, don't lift anymore, don't put 200 pounds over here, like they start to make these arbitrary goals, I'm like, red flag, gone. And so, but mainly the most important thing is, who cuts your hair? Do you cut your hair? Do you cut your hair? Do you just pick up the phone and dial a random and be like, cut my hair random? No, you're like, who cuts your hair? I want to go to that person. Like, there's a whole bunch of weird stuff that we do as humans where we get someone else's help or someone else's suggestion. But physio, like, we're like, I don't know, my insurance paid for it. I'm like, that's super weird. That is super weird. You're just gonna go see a blind stranger and not have them know anything about you? Crazy. That's crazy.
Especially something so important. I literally, the only therapist I'll see now is a 2-hour round trip, because I've seen so many other people that it's just a waste of time and money. It's easier to make the time in the evening. Even with a 14-month-old baby, I'll still make it happen if I need to go for that 2-hour round trip, because it's just not worth it otherwise. It's a waste of time. And it's so disheartening.
Yes, and yes. And that person loads you up with a whole bunch of work to do.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like what we should do, and this is no slight on anyone, some people are not as obsessed as the three of us. It's okay. This is all I think about all day long. That's all I think about. And it's all I think about with my kids. My wife is my trading partner. Like, this is it. But what I'll say is, if you want good outcomes, choose good patients. If you want to go to the world championships and win a world championship, you should choose world champions to work with. Like, I know, I mean, you can spot talent, you can develop someone, but what I'm saying is that as a physio, I want to work with people who are like, show me what to do and I've got this. And we almost need to divide the field into, hey, my insurance is covering for this, I want to do the minimum dose. Great. We need those people working in the hospital, working for just, hey, I'm not really motivated, but my elbow hurts and it's getting in the way of my job, versus I need to get back to my thing and I'll do whatever it is. Oh, I'm drinking goat blood and I'm getting up at 2 a.m. and I'm doing these weird exercises. I'm in, just show me. And the most important thing, and this is, we can't circle this around. If you're seeing someone or nutrition or you're getting coached, we want to ask, is it making you better towards winning at your sport? Because I think that, like, I am getting stronger. Cool. Did that make you better at your sport? No. Okay. You working on some soft tissue. Did that make you better at your sport? Oh, I can't tell. So we really want everyone to come up with clear, measurable details. I saw this. I saw change in my range, or it was easier to hit that range, and that ultimately reflected in my wattage going up. Pain going down, wattage going up, poundage going up. I was able to handle higher volumes. I had less stiffness. You can create whatever those metrics, those outcomes are, but we need to be more outcome driven. And we are outcome driven. I mean, if you go to any Olympic lifting session, we make a hypothesis. Here's the work I want you to get done today. Here are the numbers I want you to hit. And then we test that hypothesis. That's what we do. And ultimately, then we come back and we say, what do we need to do to make those numbers bigger? And how do we rework that hypothesis for the next day? And so we want to apply that same level of thinking to anyone. And a physio should be able to tell you, I think that typically this problem gets better in 2 to 3 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. I think I need to see you 2 to 4 times max. We'll see. And here's what you're going to do about it. We can answer all of those questions. And if you can't, you should think red flag, because that may be a great physio, but not a great physio for you.